Yeah, just a semicircle. So that's just
So my priority, there's no greater achievement for me personally as an instructor than to see my students perform at their highest potential. I always tell everybody who walks in from that door from the very moment, we're here to enrich and empower your life. We will hold you accountable to your goals, and whoever it is, doesn't matter who, whether it's male, female, whether it's boy, girl, they will always inspire us to be our best. So a few years ago, a wonderful mom came in with her two daughters and put her daughter into jiu-jitsu. And before we had the mats on that row, we had benches. She used to sit there and, what did you do? Crochet? She crocheted, and then eventually she was convinced to try jiu-jitsu. And I would love for you guys to hear Clara's story. So without any further ado, Clara, come on up.
I did crochet a lot. I never wanted to start jiu-jitsu. I literally was just a chauffeur and a mom. I was newly a single mom during the pandemic. Things got difficult, and my daughter's father was like, hey, this is really hard. I think I'm gonna take a job out of state. Which sounds miserable, but we were making it work. And so for 2 years, not only was I crocheting, but I was going through some really lovely therapy, figuring out what was wrong with me. And I got 6 months here listening to Professor Greg and Professor Philip and their jiu-jitsu parables. They'll tell you all the time. Jiu-jitsu, they talked about it like it was a best friend. It is not only a pillar, but it's also a crutch when things are difficult. And one day I had just had enough of life between the pandemic and unfortunately putting a lot of people into having really difficult conversations about grief. And my daughter had tried to armbar me at breakfast at Chick-fil-A, who was 4 at the time, and I was like, wow, this is miserable. And Greg was in the middle of one of his parables that problems are really heavy and you might find yourself in a difficult position, but here in jiu-jitsu we are going to teach you more about life than just jiu-jitsu, and we're going to work to improve your position. Even if it is a mental struggle, we're going to work through that difficult situation. If it's a physical struggle, we're going to work through that position. And I was like, darn it, give me a gi, Jenny. I never planned on doing any of these things, but in the last 2 years and change, I've competed a lot. I brought my medals for Greg because he loves them. I broke the box.
Okay, well, I competed a lot. So as you see these banners, we have Clara has been a part of pretty much every single one of these competition banners and has contributed probably more so than any of our students to achieve the goal that we have achieved to be the #1 Jiu-Jitsu Academy in all of Texas, which is what we are ranked. And this wonderful, amazing, inspiring athlete was one of the biggest factors to truly lead our team to glory and victory over and over and over again. And she is also ranked as the #1 female in Texas. And
I'm 36. Like, I never thought I was gonna start jiu-jitsu at middle age. They're like, hey, what's the prime age for a fighter? I'm like, girl, it is not 35. Okay, I don't come from a wrestling background, and at the end of the day, I'm still like carrying groceries and sleeping children into the house. I come from a sexual assault background. I by no means wanted to like get sweaty with a bunch of dudes on the meds because that felt very invasive. And it was difficult and vulnerable to start those things. I met amazing people. Amber's here, Michelle's here, Becca's here, Ayushi's here, Deb and Ellie are here. You run into amazing women who are so very empowered, not just to like learn some self-defense, but to really empower you to do boundaries. I was 4 months into training here, just trying to figure out life and get better kind of in a holistic sense. When I actually had a chance to use jiu-jitsu at work, I got attacked. I had a guy with alcohol-induced delirium that had come in, young kid that was like 6'4", and thought he was at a party, thought he was at a rave. And I came into a situation where there were multiple other women of varying ages who are ineffectively trying to subdue this guy, who was actively talking about forcible intimacy with them. And I was like, I don't know what is possessing any of you to continue to engage with this guy. I was able to convince the staff to get out of the room before he lunged at us. I scooped him behind, like the staff behind me as we're coming out of the room. But he had me across grip on the other side of a door. And my foot was in the door, and I knew that if I went in that room, that Bedford PD is 7 minutes from where I'm standing. And there's no way that I'm gonna last 7 minutes in this room with this guy. There's no possible way. About 2-3 years before this, I know in the staff at HEB worked through a young girl getting beaten unconscious for more than 15 minutes before they could get into a unit and find her. She lost an eye, and she is maimed indefinitely in that situation. When I tell you that the staff that I was trying to work through were in an absolute state of shock, were frozen, could not communicate, just in the sheer force of aggression in that situation, listening to someone bigger and stronger than you talk about the things they wanted to do to you once you are unconscious. It was terrifying. Literally, they went to like therapy, and I mean that in a good way. They had a great opportunity to be intervened with. And I know even getting grabbed on one side, doing jiu-jitsu, that's only 50% of the choke. I'm in a bad situation, but I'm okay. I can still think, I can still, just with 4 months of training, be in a position where I know, Claire, you need to breathe, you need to improve your position, you need to get this door shut where he is in there, you need to make sure you're not in there, you need to communicate to them so that they can get Bedford PD. The staff there were like, oh my God, Claire, what are you doing? I was able to verbally make sure that I'm de-escalating him on one side. I'm blocking blows from the top over the door. There's blood everywhere from him ranking his knuckles on the door, trying to hit me in the face. When he finally let up enough, I was able to do, it's like a push-pull technique that Professor just showed us. You're pushing the elbow in, but you're scooping him back down, got him into a wheelchair, tied him up with a blanket, and hooked him to ICU, where they stuck him in like 4-point restraints and ended up able to like chemically sedate him. What we did not know at the time, because the hospital is not going to screen for this, is that the guy's on a warrant for like multiple assaults on staff. Not like he had assaulted people, staff at other entities, but also just in the world, guys just having. There's monsters in the world, and they don't always pronounce themselves, because that would be way too easy. Coming back to that unit, I will tell you, there's so many, because again, 7 minutes is a long time. Fights don't last 7 minutes. For Bedford PD to get up there and to know that the staff was safe. I'm now known as like the mean girl on that unit though, because I'll set boundaries like way in advance. So like if there's a problem working with nurses and my techs, a lot of which are really young. I staff anywhere between 18 years old and as old as 74. I have a 74-year-old nurse who's still practicing. Challenging and setting boundaries and being willing to enforce them is going to be step one. Once you feel comfortable doing that though, or part of what makes you feel comfortable doing that is knowing that I can back that up. So if at 4 months I can still evade a really dangerous dangerous situation. And I can say, do not touch me. Don't do that. Unfortunately, I learned that middle-aged as a woman. You know, nobody told me this when I was young. We're telling our daughters things. Young, don't tolerate that awkward hug. No, you don't have to sit in his lap. No, you don't have to hug him. No, he can't do X, Y, Z. Don't let him grab your wrist. These things, when you are middle-aged, you are now hearing that and giving permission to honor your boundaries. The best thing about all of jiu-jitsu, other than like spending the last two and a half years just like healing at this academy, like, oh, you must love competing and you must love getting medals and it must be so great. There's a peace in knowing that my daughters are never gonna have to deal with the things that I deal with because of how I was taught. Knowing that my 12-year-old is never gonna have to get in a situation where she sets a boundary and she has to rely on a man's kindness to honor that boundary. Because she will be 110% enforceable with how her body is touched, where it is touched, when it is touched, and the environment that happens in. God save anybody for my 6-year-old, because she's much more mouthy than my 12-year-old. She'll just cut you down with her words. But either one of my daughters are not going to deal with things or the uncomfortable situation or the guilt and the conviction of like, oh, be nice, be good, don't make anyone else feel uncomfortable. They are told, you are valuable, you are precious. And that kind of started at this academy, which is great. I'm very grateful for it. But in just 4 months, hands down, made sure that I didn't send another staff member to the ER to get life flagged out. And I see her like routinely, and she's like, "Thank you so much," because I would have been unconscious in the bathroom. So hopefully the self-defense things can carry you further, and you can not only keep yourself safe, your daughter safe, but also like the women around you who just don't know and don't see. So those who can do, so all of you are like little lady warriors here. Not little, I mean like lady warriors here who are willing to come and be vulnerable and learn about this stuff is really valuable. If you want to continue learning about those things and get to the ground, which we didn't get to, we didn't get to the ground, but there's a lot of things knowing that once you do get to the ground, what you can do and you learn actually much faster than you might think.
Show them real quick. Just go, here. I don't mean to interrupt. Here.
That's fine.
Go on your back. Okay, look, unfortunately, this is a common scenario where there's a sexual assault, and it's even more common where the throat is held, okay? So if she closes her legs and just begins to pull me in with her legs, it makes it very difficult for me to be able to posture up and do much. If she overwraps my arm with the left hand, over, with the left, she's immediately going for submission. And the right hand is pulling the head. Okay, and she's here. It's very difficult for me to be able to really do much. Okay, this is part of the fighting chance. Okay, if somehow she falls back down to the ground and the man is holding the throat, she grabs that arm, she grabs here, okay, and then she goes, puts the left foot on the hip, and then goes for an arm lock this way. Yes, and throws the leg over the head. Yes. Yeah. So there's a lot of things that can be done from that very bad position from which a lot of bad things happen. Another example, okay, is if the arm is extended, okay, it's because they're trying to subdue you and hold you, okay? So if we're here, okay, and this hand begins to reach down towards the pants, she throws both legs around the neck, okay, lock, tap, tap. My hand got stuck on her throat and it locked my joint. But right here, she throws her legs over my head. Okay. Yes, right here, good. Now pull my arm across, okay, and locks that triangle and squeezes. Okay. All of those very vulnerable positions turn into very potentially deadly results for whoever the aggressor is. Just as an example. But
Lord help the man that comes for my daughters.
Yes.
Lord help them. And I have peace at night. One of them talks about like traveling internationally and everything. She's like, I'm gonna go jiu-jitsu here and stuff. I'm like, oh. Or she's 12, she's just figuring out boys. Thank God. Like, and she just basically wants to choke them, which is nice. But I'm like, oh, Lord save the boy who tries to come and be inappropriate. So that is the best piece of the last 2.5 especially with how society is changing. So if you'd like to learn any of those really fast, great things that boys would not know, Lord save the one that comes from you too.
You just need to have a fighting chance. And the takeaways from here: set boundaries, enforce boundaries, and understand that it takes time to develop any techniques. Practice doesn't make perfect, but practice will make you better. Just, by the show of hands, and we don't have to go into detail. Who has been the victim of some kind of an assault or violence? I know I have. It's a God blessing that a lot of the hands didn't go up. But what's very important is for you guys not to become victims or statistics, and for that you have to be vigilant. Before we go, I wanted to ask Officer Amanda from Bedford PD to maybe come up and say a few words. Sorry, I don't mean to.
Take off her boots.
Yeah,
Boots.
it's, the rule is no shoes on the back.
Do you want me to go over there?
Yeah, come on up. We'll give you center stage. You keep the socks on, but one's on. We have a lot of our Bedford PD that also train with us, and we couldn't be more proud of the impact that we have on our police officers.
Again, my name is Officer Garcia. I'm with Bedford PD, and I've been a police officer for 4 years now. One thing that a lot of women, especially, I feel that don't really, really realize, especially as from the outside looking in, especially in this class, and knowing what it is that I do when I do work with victims, whether it be domestic violence, whether they are in a physical assault, whether it be with an intimate partner, their husband, their loved one, or whether it be with a stranger. 99% of the victims that I work with or that I speak with do absolutely nothing whenever it comes to these encounters. So I hope that this class is like a good introduction for you guys, like a very good baseline. But if you guys are very serious about not becoming a statistic or just ensuring your safety, that you guys do continue to put yourself in vulnerable situations or positions. That's what jiu-jitsu, a lot of it is on the ground where people are going to be in your personal space and, in your general area, faces are touching, hands are places, legs are across each other, and just repetition. Repetition is very important, especially because a lot of the time, this is not going to be the end all be all when it comes to protecting yourself. If it's not just with your hands, whether it be, with a weapon, just reps is always going to be extremely important. Just whatever it is that you're comfortable with, whether it is, jiu-jitsu, whether it is stand-up fighting, or whether it is a weapon in itself, just practice with whatever it is that you are doing. But yeah, I would just say, like I said, most of the victims that I speak to do absolutely nothing. They freeze. Even if it is with someone that they do know and that they are comfortable with, they do absolutely nothing as they're defenseless. That's why I feel repetition is very good for you. It helps close your OODA loop. I don't know if you guys are aware what OODA loop is. We use it as observe, orient, decide, and act. So whenever you are in a situation like that, you observe, you kind of catch what it is that you're doing, you decide what it is that you're going to do, and then you act on you have a plan and then you act on it. So I would always just have a plan wherever it is that you are, whether, like he said, going to a grocery store, whether it is you are just going to a friend's house. Me, even though I do what I do, I don't go anywhere at night. It's just, I'm old school and nothing bad can happen to you when you're at home, so that's me. But, do y'all have any questions or anything?
What made you decide to become a police?
It was always, that idea was always there for me whenever I was younger. I didn't grow up in Bedford. I grew up in South Oak Cliff. So I had a very different upbringing than where it is that I currently work. So for me, I kind of grew up fighting. I kind of grew up rough. And so I wanted to be in an area for me where I could still against Dallas PD or anything like that, but I didn't feel that going back to where it is that I'm from, I feel like that area is just kind of too far gone for me, at least. I like Bedford, I like the general area. We're still able to work, and then we're still also able to engage with our community, and our community does love us. So that's one thing that I do truly enjoy.
Thank you, Counselor.
Oh, no, thank you.
Thank you very much.
We're gonna wrap this up. Give me just 5 minutes. What I wanted to just say is here, Clara, come on over here one time. Is the following: that our objective today. Phil, come on. It'll look weird in the video. Our objective today, you know, they say 1% better every day. When you walk through that door, you leave here a lot more than just 1% better. Our objective today was just to empower you with at least something that you can take away from what we discussed here. Whether it be concepts, probably, whether it be some sort of techniques that you got to feel. Like Officer Garcia said, that repetition, and this is where repetition is done in a controlled setting where you're put in very bad positions in a controlled manner. You work out of them systematically through a plan and through using techniques that we teach. And hopefully you fall in love with jiu-jitsu. We have the most amazing kids instructors, Professor Philip here, Coach Clara here. We have others that also help. A lot of the women that started training were started because their kids started, you know. And a couple things I just wanted to say, that if there were some takeaways, remember, this one seminar is not going to be the end all be all. It's, you got to consistently learn, practice, apply, and so forth. Okay. If I could say the main takeaways I would love for you to walk out here with is this: always set and enforce your boundaries. It doesn't matter in what. Whether it's your personal relationships with friends, with family. How many family cross boundaries and take advantage of you? Because you may set a boundary, but you don't want to be the a-hole to enforce the boundaries, and then you're like, oh, and then before you know it, you know, ex-sister-in-law is moving into your house, you know, your brother's wanting money, you know, you have kids here that are running crazy and all that kind of stuff. Boundaries, set boundaries, enforce boundaries. Not easy to do, but it must be done. Okay, and be aware of your surroundings. Okay, even when you're walking out of here to go to your car, be aware. You're driving, be aware, because it is where we are least aware that we will suffer most. So if you are aware, you want to eliminate suffering, but you surely will minimize suffering. And situational awareness. Again, there's no end-all be-all fix to anything. However, you're either going to do things that are going to increase the likelihood of situations that are out of your control, or minimize the chance of you being a victim. And we truly hope that we see you guys back, whether it's you, whether it's your kids. Tell everybody, and I think that from the success of this event, we will probably be hosting these a lot more frequently, probably maybe every month, every couple months. And we'd love for you guys to be able to come back and join us, become part of our family. If not, for your kids, we have a free week trial, and love to be able to have you here. And I just truly want, on behalf of all of us, myself, and everybody that makes this academy great, it's truly a blessing to have you guys here. And I thank you so much for taking the time to spend a Saturday afternoon getting empowered. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, ladies.
You know what? So I must have my